as I am Lauren Avery, and the day my husband told me to take my belongings and leave. Nonstop abundance activation message. I don't think he realized I owned every single thing he was sitting on, touching. I've that jerk to vasage and bragging about. Not just the furniture, not just the wallpaper, everything. Abundance activation message. He thought I'd walk away quietly. He thought he'd won. But I'm an interior designer, and I design exits just as beautifully as homes. Activation message. This is the story of how I packed up a housey and left a man with nothing but his ego and bare walls. Message. The divorce papers trembled just a little in my hand, not from fear, not from grief. This activation message, just from the weight of years collapsing into one moment, across from me. James sat with a smug look on his face, fingers intertwined with her. Rachel, 25. Message. The date. Full of Botox dreams and Instagram filters, and currently parked on my velvet sofa like she owned it. She didn't. Non-stop abundance activation message. He did that thing where he raised his eyebrows like he was performing concern in a play. So, you'll really just leave, he asked. I didn't respond. Not at first. Just placed the papers down on the marble coffee table. The one I paid for, between us. Paste in. I'm taking all my personal belongings, I said. Calm, clear. Non-stop abundance activation edge. The way a storm is quiet right before it rips the roof off. Stop abundance activation message. Rachel looked around the room like she was appraising her prize. Meston. This place is perfect, she sighed. Non-stop abundance activation message. Josefa trailing her fingers along the armrest I'd picked out after 5 months of saving and 4 design boards. Activation message. It's exactly what I've always wanted. Of course it was, because I built it. Message. James waved a hand like he was doing me a favor. Yeah. Your old clothes, whatever. Take him. He grinned. Honestly. Non-spacious, and they just remind me of all. The miserable time we spent together. I just nodded, not a flinch. Not a blink. He thought I'd walk out in tears. Abundance activation message. He had no idea I was about to strip that house to the bones. Mashin. Ani those and span, because while James had spent our marriage sleeping around and dismissing my work. Stop it inventing, I'd documenting, cataloging every receipt, every design plan. Message. Winter every dollar spent from my account. And guess what? He signed a prenup. No division of property. What's mine is mine. And everything was mine. 3 years ago. Message. James inherited a house from his grandparents. Structurally solid. Yes. But decorated like the set of a sad 1980s sitcom. Beige walls, worn carpet. A plastic blinds that screamed, "Don't care." Then, he met me. I'm Lauren. I'm an interior designer, and back then, I was in love. I saw potential. In him. In the house. Like cultivation message. And in the life we could build. So, I poured my savings, my creativity, and my soul into that place. Activation message. I replaced every light fixture, refinished the floors. Non-stop abundance activation message. Selected every piece of furniture down to the drawer pulls. And just Adrian Fatinge, I worked late hours designing other people's dream homes, then came home to build ours. Stop abundance activation message didn't lift a finger. Unless it was to criticize. activation message. One time I spent a weekend installing floating shelves in the den. His comment. Looks nice. Message, I guess. Little too girly, though. He didn't say thank you. He never did. But I stayed. Mundan's activation message. Not because I believed that effort could fix what love couldn't. Cat's activation message. That illusion shattered 6 months ago when I picked up his phone by mistake. Notifications lit up like a slot machine. Messages from Rachel. Photos, plans. Her telling her friend how James has such great taste and how his wife just doesn't get him. His wife. Message. Me. She thought he had created that house. She thought he made the home. He let her believe it. Abundance assless activation message, and that's when I stopped being heartbroken and started being strategic. I invited them both to the house one Friday afternoon. Rachel arrived first. Opportunity day. Ends. She wore a pale blue dress that looked expensive and a smile that looked practiced. Nonstop abundance activation message. She strutted through the door like she belonged there. Like she already lived there. Message. She glanced around at the home I had designed. My work, my vision, and gave a breathy sigh. Stop abuntivation. It's exactly what I imagined, she said. All it needs is a little refresh. Maybe some warmer tones. I didn't respond. James arrived 5 minutes later. Mondadance in the sky. Dressed like he was going to a golf brunch. His eyes flicked to me, then to her. Ashen message, then down to the envelope in my hand. He smirked. That awful message. Smug smirk I'd once mistaken for confidence. Lauren, he said. Nah. Let's just keep this civilized. I slid the divorce papers across the table. No theatrics. No sobbing. Just a clean signature line next to his name. He frowned. You're already prepared. I nodded. Rachel leaned in curious. Message. No alimony or anything. I looked her in the eye. Message. Nah. James and I signed a prenup when we got married. No division of property. He keeps what's his. I keep what's mine. She blinked. So, he gets the house. I smiled. Message. He inherits the house, yes, but everything in the house. Activation message. That's mine. I watched the color drain from her face. Just a little. James waved it off. Pussland. It's fine. She's just taking her clothes and personal stuff. You know, makeup, knicks, whatever. I didn't argue. I just said, the movers will be here at 9 a.m. Lend the abundance activation message, and then I walked away. Out of the room I'd made beautiful, not danced abundance activation message that out of the life they thought they'd stolen from me. They thought I was walking away with nothing. The Vation they had no idea I was walking away with everything that mattered. The movers arrived at exactly 9:00 a.m. 2 large trucks, 6 uniformed workers, and maiming stop abundance activation message. The same illy used for high-end design clients. Not a single item would be scratched, rushed, or missed. Morning, Miss Avery. The foreman greeted me. We've got the full inventory. Lee Jameson at Enrica Cal, Nance, James M. the Bender Delglim. Emerged from the bedroom in matching white robes. Non-stop abundance, their faces sleep, puffed and confused. Rachel squinted at the trucks through the window. Message. Why are there two moving vans? She asked, yawning. How many shoes do you have? I didn't answer. Nonstop abundance activation message. Just handed the foreman my iPad with the master list, itemize, oft, photographed, timestamp. Message. Every lamp, every rug, every brass fixture had a receipt. The crew moved fast. Professional. A stop abundantly message. Surgical. They wrapped the velvet sectional in protective blankets, unscrewed the lighting. Message. Carefully removed custom blinds and wall art. My dining table, the one Rachel admired, was gone in under 15 minutes. Non-stop abundance activation message. James was still sipping his coffee when he noticed the bookshelf disappearing. Hey! Wait. What the hell are you doing with my couch? I handed him a folder. Inside. Nashij, copies of every receipt, every email confirmation, every invoice with my name, my business account. Meisenfern, our firm. These are mine, I said. Bought after our wedding with my income. Maschen, Hinsingen, you agreed no division of property. He flipped through the pages like they might bite him. Nah, you can't take everything. Non-stop been using this stuff for years. Usage, I said calmly. Message. Doesn't equal ownership. Rachel spun in place. Are you kidding me? Non-activation nebes, then you're taking all of it. What are we supposed to sit on? The floor. I nodded. That sounds about right. By noon, the living room was stripped. By 200 p.m., that the kitchen was bare. By 400 p.m., message. The only thing left was a shell, a skeleton of drywall and regret. And then came the final touch. Nonstopolk, a small utility van pulled up. 2 more men stepped out. Wallpaper removal, one said. For Miss Avery. Rachel's mouth dropped open. You're taking the wallpaper and looked at her. No. I'm taking what I designed. That custom print cost $8,000. My company paid for it. James lost it. Not. You can't take the walls. I'm not, I said, walking toward the door. He had some. He lost. Mike's past. What's on them? 2 weeks passed. I had settled into my new apartment, bright, clean. Meshin message, untouched by betrayal. Most of the items I'd taken were already gone. Sold, donated, message, or redesigned into something new. Something that reflected me now, not who I used to be. A message I had moved on. And then he called. Lauren. The voice was smaller, less arrogant. He'd shrunk inside his own skin. I didn't say anything. Rachel's gone. On, she said. She couldn't live like this. Nonstop abundance activation Medj said she didn't sign up for bare walls and thrift store furniture. Silence. At abundance activation message. I didn't realize how much you did to make that house a home. She hated everything. Said I lied about who I was, Bal. I waited. I was wrong. About Rachel. About the divorce. About you. Lauren, can you help me? Samdalp abundance activation message. At least help me make it livable again. I pictured it. Him pacing around that empty shell. Stopico bouncing off stripped walls. Nonstop abundance activation message. Sleeping on a mattress on the floor, because he never once thought to lift a finger while I built an empire around him. Nanj. I looked at the artwork in my new place, brighter, braver. I looked at the mirror, and finally, me again. No, I said. Just that. One word. Stop abundance activation message. But it held everything he had taken for granted, and everything I had reclaimed. Meshin. I wish you luck with your decorating. Then, I hung up, blocked his number. Activation message. And let that house, and that man, stay as empty as they'd made me feel for years. Message. None. So the week after I blocked James, I expected to feel emptiness. But what I felt was clarity. Not just Upland's activation message. I no longer waited for an apology that would never come. I no longer rearranged myself to be more pleasing or easy to live with. I ate when I was hungry. I rested when I was tired. I existed without negotiation. Abundance activation message. It was strange how quiet the world became when I no longer had to explain myself to someone who never really listened. Ashen. Atzeden. I didn't lose a husband. I lost dead weight, and I could finally breathe again. Nonce, the apartment was small, but it was mine. Every detail was intentional. Every color meant something. Abundance activation message. I was no longer designing for someone else's ego. I was designing for my own rebirth. Likalonda and stop abundance activation message in. The strange part started liking I was. When no one was watching, I didn't keep much. Nalx activation in gym, most of the furniture from our old house. Sold, the profits. Lenshammer Apunikachan, I didn't politica didn't wation so risk them on comfort purchases or escape flights. I invested. Methods. I enrolled in a 2-week design retreat I'd always dreamed about, but never had permission to attend. Bundavasenge, I launched a small online store. Prints, mood boards, virtual consultations. Clients found me through word of mouth, and slowly, message quietly, my name became something more than just James's wife. It became a brand. My brand was Backrek. One evening, I got an email from a magazine editor I used to intern for. Stop a buntivation message. She'd seen my new collection. Your style is fearless, she wrote. Leave? Where was this woman hiding? Answer. She wasn't hiding. She was shrinking. Bun's activation message. For a man who couldn't stand there to share the spotlight. But now, there was no spotlight to share. One afternoon, while checking mail downstairs, I saw Rachel. Not in person, but in an online video. Abundance activation message. A mutual acquaintance had shared her Instagram story. She sat in a half-furnished apartment, complaining about how ungrateful men were, how some women just don't know how to let go. She was talking about me. I didn't react. I simply scrolled past, closed my phone, nonstop abundance activation message, and turned toward the sunlit stairwell that led back to my place. The top abundance activation message. The old me might have written a message, might have defended myself, but now, stop abundance activation message. I don't need to win a public battle with someone who already lost in private. Activation message. I climbed those stairs slowly, barefoot, no makeup. Message. Holding a roll of sample wallpaper and a chai latte. I smiled to myself. She got my leftovers. Non-stop abundance activation message. I got my life back. And that's the kind of peace no one can fake on social media. Message. It started with a candle. Not a fancy one. Just lavender and cedarwood. Stop abundance activation message. I lit it on a rainy afternoon in my new apartment while the city outside blurred behind glass. Non-stop abundance activation message. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was performing for anyone. I wasn't curating a home to impress guests. Message. I wasn't creating an atmosphere to keep a man interested. I was just existing. Pints in the straight space I chose. In a body I was finally learning to forgive. Stop an activation message. With walls, with nulls that had never echoed back someone else's criticism. I let the silence teach me. I stop abundant message. I started leaving dishes in the sink without guilt. At message, I danced barefoot on the rug I'd bought secondhand. Bought alke popcorn for dinner more than once. And the message, and no one sighed or rolled their eyes. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. Each night. And then just stop it, add one more small touch. A shelf, a print, a bland. That might die but at least had a chance to grow. I didn't need a mansion to feel powerful. Non-stop abundance activation message. Just a place that didn't ask me to disappear in order to feel like home. And squand. And slowly. The bruises he never gave with his hands began to fade. I was healing. And not because time passed. Non-stop abundance activation the message, but because I finally stopped trying to return to a version of me that never had permission to bloom. It was a Thursday, late afternoon. The light outside was warm, gold. Non-stop abundance activation and soft, falling perfectly across my hardwood floors like it had rehearsed. Abundance activation challenge. I was watering a plant that was somehow still alive when I heard the knock. 3 slow taps. Message. I opened the door and there he was. James. He looked smaller than I remembered. Paler. Abundance activation message. He held a brown paper bag with a bottle of wine and what I assumed was store-bought pasta. His smile was hesitant. Like he wasn't sure who would answer, me or the version of me he used to control. Lashen. I was in the neighborhood, he said. I didn't move. He looked around me, taking in the apartment. This is nice. Really nice. You did all this. I nodded. Of course I did. He cleared his throat. I just thought maybe we could talk. Catch up. Silence. He shifted. Look, I know I messed things up. I've had time to think. Rachel's gone. I've been alone in that house and I realized us. I miss us. There it was. Us. Activation message. The word that used to feel like a promise. Now it felt like a trap. You miss what I gave you, I said calmly. No, not what we had, because you never really saw us. Message. You only ever saw what you could take. He looked stunned. Lauren, come on. Estaptris beat Hazen next. We had good times. Ooh, we had expensive furniture. I interrupted. He blinked. Men's. Hassan, I softened slightly. Not out of pity, but out of closure. You were a chapter. One I've finished. Message. And I don't reread stories that left me empty. He stood there, unsure. I stepped back and closed the door. Not slammed, just closed. Quiet. Final. And when I turned around, non-stop abundance accent message. The light in the apartment had shifted, just enough to hit the mirror beside the door. Pausen as an eclasion stopped my own reflection. She looked whole. Sometimes, abundance activation message, people don't come back because they miss you. Non-stop abundance activation message. They come back because they miss the version of themselves they got to be when you were the one carrying the weight. Stop abundant. That healing means knowing you don't owe them that version anymore. Non-stop of an activation message. I didn't just walk away from a man. I walked into the rest of my life. Non-stop abundance activation message. And I promise you, it's so much more beautiful without the burden of proving my worth. Abundance activation message. Have you ever had to choose yourself over someone who never truly saw you? If this story resonated, stop abundance activation message. Please share and subscribe to Telling Story with me. The pink of the stust and the perna capri pounds. We stop a real stories for real people, because your voice deserves to be heard. Message, and your healing deserves a home.